Thì mọi người đã bắt đầu với những ý tưởng và học cách chuyển hóa chúng thành concept sản phẩm có ứng dụng AI. Sang workshop 2, AI Native Product Strategy và Pilot Pathway, thì chúng ta đã tập trung vào việc làm sao để có thể hiện thực hóa ý tưởng thành một sản phẩm, từ xây dựng chiến lược, tính toán giá trị ROI, có nghĩa là làm sao để có thể đem lại lợi nhuận nhiều nhất cho tất cả những cái sự đầu tư của mình, và cho đến cách thuyết phục để triển khai một cái sản phẩm của mình sẽ như thế nào. Đến workshop thứ 3 thì chúng ta đã cùng đi qua làm sao có thể tạo được agentic workflow cùng với AI và engineering cái sản phẩm của mình để nó chuẩn chỉnh, có thể biến ý tưởng thành một prototype thực tế có thể chạy được. Workshop 4 chúng ta tiếp tục làm sao đẩy cái ý tưởng của mình, đẩy cái sản phẩm của mình để có thể deploy được, có thể scale, có thể phát triển nó và tạo ra một sản phẩm có thể truy cập công khai bởi những người khác. Tiếp theo sau đó, vừa rồi, mới ngày hôm qua thôi, thì chúng ta còn vừa đi qua workshop thứ 5, nghĩa là workshop về localization và evaluation design, đã giúp mọi người có thể đảm bảo được rằng sản phẩm của mình không chỉ chạy được mà còn có thể hoạt động đúng, hiệu quả với những nhu cầu, tính chất đối với người dùng thực tế. Thì nhưng mà, một sản phẩm công nghệ xuất sắc chỉ thực sự có thể sống sót khi nó chứng minh được giá trị kinh doanh. Và đó là lý do chúng ta có workshop 6 ngày hôm nay. Workshop 6 có tên là The Art of Pitching, Understanding the Investor Mindset. Hay nói cách khác, chúng ta sẽ học về nghệ thuật thuyết trình hoặc là gọi vốn và làm sao để có thể động vị được tâm lý của nhà đầu tư. Và đây chính là một mảnh ghép quyết định ngay trước thềm hackathon của mình đây. Trúc muốn nhấn mạnh điều này, kiến thức tối nay sẽ đánh trực tiếp vào 10% số điểm tổng rubric của ban giám khảo tại hackathon, cho nên là mong mọi người có thể kiên nhẫn theo dõi để mình cùng đi qua từng từng mục, từng điểm đối với cùng với diễn giả, và chính cái phần này sẽ tạo nên điểm nhấn của mọi người ở phần trình bày nè, demo sản phẩm, cũng như là sự tự tin của mọi người có thể thuyết thuyết phục được ban giám khảo là tại sao sản phẩm của đội của chúng tôi có thể đem ra thị trường, có thể đem lại được những lợi ích, lợi nhuận vừa cho cộng đồng mà vừa cho chính những nhà đầu tư ở đây. Thì dù model AI của tất cả mọi người có độ chính xác cao đến đâu, thì nếu không đạt được tiêu chí này, cơ hội giành giải thưởng của chúng ta cũng sẽ bị giảm đi đáng kể. Cho nên là mọi người ơi, mình hãy lấy giấy bút ra, mình có thể sử dụng nốt trên cả điện thoại hay là laptop để những gì diễn ra trong 2 tiếng sắp tới, chúng ta sẽ có đầy đủ những kỹ năng, những kiến thức để mà có thể đem tới một bài thuyết trình thật là đầy tính thuyết phục dành cho ban giám khảo. Cảm ơn sự đón nhận của mọi người ạ. Ban tổ chức đã thấy có một vài comment trong phần chat rất là sôi động. Vậy thì, làm sao để có thể xây dựng được một bản trình bày thuyết phục được những cái đầu sắc lệnh nhất, đúng không nào? Dạ, thì bây giờ, để dẫn dắt chúng ta đi qua chủ đề này, ban tổ chức rất là vui, có được diễn giả khách mời ngày hôm nay, đó là một người có bề dày kinh nghiệm thực chiến cực khủng. Không biết mọi người đã nghe qua tên của anh chưa? Anh từng là một cựu Executive Vice President tại Yahoo. Mọi người có biết, mọi người còn nhớ Yahoo, mọi người còn đã sử dụng qua những sản phẩm của Yahoo chưa ạ? Anh còn là người đã quản lý gần 3.000 kỹ sư trên toàn thế giới lận, và anh cũng đồng thời vừa là đồng sáng lập cũng như là CEO của DataTorrent hiện tại. Đây là một startup nhận được đầu tư từ các quỹ tại thung lũng Silicon. Và bên cạnh đó thì anh còn là một tech advisor và angel investor, có nghĩa là nhà nhà đầu tư thiên thần, trực tiếp cố vấn cho các startup về sản phẩm nè, về phát triển nè và về cả gọi vốn. Xin mọi người thả thật nhiều tim vào ô chat để chào đón anh Phú Hoàng ạ. We would like to welcome Mr. Fu Huang to the stage, and welcome to give a round of applause for having you here with us today. Welcome, Mr. Fu Huang.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, do you know that, everyone, do you know that it's very early in the morning? Because Anh Phu Hoàng is in the US right now. So we're really grateful to have you here with us and be with us on this journey together. Yeah, before we deep dive into the 12-slide pitch deck, I have been informed that you come prepared and full with lots of highlights from the Vietnam AI Stars achievement. Please share more with us.
All right. Well, first of all, I thank you for inviting me to participate in this workshop. I'm honored. I see that there are quite a few of folks have tuned in. My understanding is that if you have been focusing on a hackathon, you've mostly been trying to build products. I don't know how many of you have the ambition and the dream to start your own company and make an impact, build great products and have lots of people use it. I can tell you, I have been an entrepreneur all my life. And one of those startups that I joined got a little big. That was Yahoo, but the rest of them are small, and I love building products. But one of the greatest challenge in starting your own company and trying to build something for the world is that you need a lot of support. And one of those things is about getting investors. So I was honored to be invited to talk about that. And so let's give a little bit more background on myself, specifically around the fundraising. While at Yahoo, I had the chance to buy a lot of companies, maybe about 10 companies. And you go through deeply understanding what companies build and how to value them. Later on, when I started my own company, I went out and raised 3 rounds of funding: a seed round, a Series A round, a Series B round from investors in Silicon Valley. And I can't even remember how many pitch I have made and how many times I've had to change my pitch deck. It is something that you constantly work on. Having said that, I think there are some common understanding about how to build a very effective pitch to investors to really understand what they're talking about, what they're thinking. And so that's what I want to share with you today. I've retired a while ago, and more recently, I have gotten a lot more involved in a number of nonprofits to help Vietnamese in the US, around the world, and especially in Vietnam, to enhance their careers. But my passion has always been to help Vietnamese entrepreneurs with their startups. And so one of those nonprofit is that I work with Mr. Hồng Trần and Ms. Hạnh Mai, is Vietnam AI Stars. And our mission in this nonprofit is to really help Vietnamese entrepreneurs get ready for the global stage. What we find is that Vietnamese don't lack technical talent. They just don't have enough experience around how to start companies, how to raise funding, and how to really talk about the impact and the potential value about their product and their business. And so we form Vietnam AI Stars to really help mentor those founders into becoming very successful entrepreneurs. Just a quick note about what we did last year as the first year of Vietnam AI Stars. We set up a contest for founders to submit their pitch deck, and we went through a program to help mentor them, not with just their pitch deck, but their business, and so that they can really become much more thoughtful and prepared to talk about their business to investors. And in last year's cohort, we had, as our first year, we had 43 startups join from 16 different countries, 10 different sectors, and we had a great time mentoring them. Our first prize winner, this startup called Lexi, was able to raise 1.4 million after 6 months with working with us. So a little bit about, just a little bit about that Vietnam AI Star. Of course, we are a nonprofit. There are plenty of work for us to do to help startups to conduct this contest. And so if you feel like you want to volunteer to help us, either as a developer or a marketing person or overall just all kinds of event work, there's the QR code if you're interested. Well, let's get into the agenda for today. First, I'll talk a little bit about why a pitch deck matters and what's really behind the investor when they are sitting across the table from you. What are they thinking? It's really important to understand what they're thinking so that at every slide that you present, you know exactly what they're looking for. And so what I will do later on as I go through each of the slides that we will be presenting to an investor, I have what I call a takeaway note. And that takeaway is a reminder that this is what the investor is looking for on this slide. And so you need to make sure that you fulfill that goal of answering that question for the investor on that slide. So every slide matters. Every slide, they have something that they want to get from you. And so we need to make sure we answer them, okay? And of course, we'll go through the pitch deck template itself, and then we can take the Q&A after that. Are we ready for the conversation? Let's get started. Okay, so why is this pitch deck important? You know, most of us, by the way, I'm an engineer by training. And so I feel like when I talk about this, I will be talking from a point of view of what I used to go through as an engineer, and hopefully you can relate to it as well, as I'm sure most of you are builders. The lazy way to look at a pitch deck is, oh God, I need to raise money. Investor is expected, so I got to put something together so I can go talk to them. The reality is that the pitch deck is not really for the investor. The pitch deck is for yourself. We tend to think when we're building startups that we have to do all these things for someone else. It's not really true. Everything you do is actually for yourself. And a pitch deck is really your business plan. And so you're building a pitch deck is a way for you to review your business plan. How well do you understand your market, your customers, your product, your technology? Because if you don't do any of those things well, you will fail. And yes, the investor may not invest in you, and some others may invest in you, whatever not. But this work is for yourself. And if you are not in the best that you can be and in each one of these areas, then it's a hole in your understanding. It's a blind spot that will end up possibly killing your company. And so building this pitch deck is really for you to build an inventory of all of your assumptions and decisions that you made that allows you to, as you run your company, go back and always correct yourself. Oh, you know, I made this decision because I made these assumptions. And now these assumptions have proven wrong. And I need to go back and rethink my decision. And so the pitch deck is really your grade report. You know, if you don't do well in some of it, then it's a reflection that your business is weak in that area and you need to pay attention to it. Okay. Let's really talk about what is the investor mindset. Okay. There is a singular focus, a singular calculus that the investor comes in with. What will be the return on my investment? Okay. And if we think about that concept, there's two pieces there. The return. How big is this opportunity? Is it worth my time? Am I going to make a lot of money? Okay. In the end of the day, some investors are tech investors, some investors are shoe investors, some investors are restaurant investors. Mostly they don't care. They just care if they put some money in, how much money will they get back? Okay. So the return is the biggest thing. The second piece of that equation is the risk. How likely is this investment? How likely is this company going to be successful? And how long will it take for me to realize the return? Do I wait 2 years? Do I wait 5 years? Do I wait 10 years? Your goal as the entrepreneur is that you need to maximize their greed and minimize their fear. If there's one thing you take away from today's presentation, is that understanding. You need to maximize their greed and you need to minimize their fear. What does that mean? That means that you have to paint a picture that the market that you are addressing, the solution that you have to solve this problem is so big that so many people will buy into this product, will use this service, that the company will be worth many, you know, millions, billions, whatever. And that if they invest now, they will make a lot of money later. So you got to appeal to that greed. And yet, the rest of the time then, after they submit, you know, after they get through with believing how big this market is, you have to minimize their fear. And that means you have to show them that you are the right person to be able to execute on this vision, that you are prepared, you have the right product, you have the right business model, you have the right traction, all the things that will give them questions around, is this going to work? Are these the right people? You know, is this going to get a lot of customers? You have to answer those questions. So throughout your pitch deck, you're either maximizing their greed or you're minimizing their fear. Okay. Let's now talk about the way they think through this. Okay. So it turns out the more there is a thing I call the risk stack. Okay. The more you have already proven that your business is successful. In other words, if you come to them and right away you say, hey, I already have 40 customers. Hey, I already make $2 million per year. I already make whatever. I already have 100,000 users. Whatever the numbers are, the more that your business already have traction, the more that they have already, the more you have already alleviate their concern about risk. So the more business metrics you have, the less they care about the rest of the stuff. Okay. But I'm going to assume that the audience I'm talking to, that if they have currently a startup, that it doesn't have a lot of business traction. So we don't get to check that mark. In which case, we have to go to the next layer in the risk stack. So then the next thing is you have to prove to them that you're the right person. Oh, you say, I'm an entrepreneur. This is my third startup. My first two startups have been very successful. I made investor a whole lot of money. If you can say that, then again, they will say, okay, this business doesn't have any traction yet, but boy, these people are proven winners and I will invest in them. I'm going to venture to guess that most of you are also not in that category. So we don't get to check that box. You probably will be a first-time entrepreneur. So we now have more things to prove to them, given that we haven't proven the business part and the experience part. Now we got to go into our product. So then, given that we don't have the first two, you better do a really good job talking about your product, the features, the UI, perhaps the intellectual property, perhaps the moat that you have. And then you have to talk about how well you will execute. And you know, what are your go-to-market plans? So the point I'm trying to make here is there is a risk stack. The more you can prove in business, the less you have to prove everything else. The more you can prove that you are the right talent, the less you have to prove on everything else. But conversely, if you don't have those things, if you're a first-time entrepreneur, your business doesn't have traction yet, then you have a lot of things to prove to them for them to give you the money. All right. So let's go into the pitch deck template itself. Okay. I have used this particular flow, this particular deck, this particular sequence for all of my time when I was running my startup. And since then, for the last 15 years, as an advisor to many, many startups, I have given them this template, and it has proven to be quite effective. There are only 11 slides and one demo that you need to have for your pitch deck. I suspect it should take around 20 minutes for the slides and 5 minutes for the demo. If you think about it, you will have about an hour to talk to an investor, and they will have a lot of questions. And so you want to have your part, presentation, and so on done in about those 30 minutes and leave the remaining 30 minutes for them to ask questions, right? The slides will cover all of the major sections of your business plan. So please don't skip any slide. If you're coming to a slide and I'm covering a topic and you say, I don't have anything to say here, it's not a sign to skip the slide. It's a sign that you have to do some work to have some content, to have something meaningful and thoughtful to say about that slide, because every slide that you don't have is a chance that you will not get funding. The sequence follows a logical flow. So I would recommend that you don't move the slide all over the place. That will confuse the investor. There is a logical flow for an investor to go through and understand this. The slide is sequenced in such a way that the next question that the investor comes up with after hearing a slide is something you will present in the next slide. So it really understands the investor mindset in that way. Okay. Now you might say, oh, there are certain topics that are really, really complicated, really involved, and I need 4 slides to talk about that, or 6 slides. I recommend that those slides you have prepared and keep in the appendix so that when the questions come in the Q&A, you can go into a deep dive. But I don't recommend that you go deep dive in the initial conversation. You want to cover all of the pieces first. Examples of those areas that will most likely go into deep dives will be the technology slides, architectures, technology, block diagrams, patterns. Competitive analysis will be another area. They may ask questions about all kinds of competitors. You may have slides for each competitor, but you won't go into that in the beginning, okay? And of course, a pitch deck that is meant for presentation can be different than the pitch deck that you will hand out for reading. The pitch deck that you hand out for reading, sorry, is someone saying something? I think, good? Can everyone hear me? Okay. Of course, the presentation for a pitch deck for presentation, it can be different than a pitch deck that you pass out for reading. The pitch deck you pass out for reading can have a lot more text. The pitch deck for presentation, you don't want to have lots of text with small letters, because then it's very hard for them to follow. My pitch deck today that I'm doing to you, I'm embarrassed to say is an exception. I really, this is a pitch deck meant to really be read as well, but I find that I really want to cover each of these points, and so I'm leaving it as more of a pitch deck for reading. But anyways, and of course, you tailor your pitch to your audience, to their expertise. Different investors will have different expertise. And so I still recommend that you follow this template when you first meet with an investor. And then as you have more meetings with them, you can fine tune the deck as you go. Okay, with all of that done, let's get started, yeah? Okay. So your title slide, simple. The name of your product or your platform, a tagline describing your product is all, and maybe the name of your company is all that you need on the title slide. The tagline here is actually really important, and you want to put some thought into it. A tagline allows an investor in a very few words to be able to place what your product is about, where is its value, in a very quick, easy to remember tagline, So let me see, let me give an example. So let's say Uber, what would be a good tagline for Uber? Maybe something like, your ride whenever you need it, as a way to say that, contrary to a taxi where you have to come out and order one and wait 20 minutes or run around and try to hail one down to see whether it's free or not. Here, with a tap of one or two taps on your phone, your ride will come to you whenever you need it. Something like that, Okay. Slide number 1, the opportunity. What is the problem that you're trying to solve? What are the pain points that you're addressing? What is the impact? And most importantly, how big is this opportunity? Going back to what we talked about earlier, you're trying to appeal to the greed of the investor here, okay? And what is the total addressable market? And if you quote numbers like, oh, the market is in, 2 billion, this and that, need to make sure you include where you get this information from, because the investors, they will check. Okay. And there's one of the biggest, most common mistakes that entrepreneurs make in this slide is that they assume that the problem that they're solving is well known to everyone. And so they don't need to give any background. They don't need to define any words. They just go right into something. And honestly, investor comes in all shapes and sizes. They may not be an expert in your field. So you need to give some thought about, how does someone who doesn't know my field at all, how do I quickly get him to understand my space, define a few definitions so that he can very quickly get to understanding, oh yeah, that's a big problem. Probably many millions or billions of dollars are being spent on that problem, and this person is trying to solve it. So you need to really make sure that we do that. When later on, when I go through an example, you'll see an example where I believe the entrepreneur does not, the space that he's addressing is quite niche, and he doesn't really quite define it. And so he may assume that the investor understands, but if the investor doesn't, then the rest of his pitch deck is useless, because the investor has never gotten to understand what the problem is. So be very thoughtful in making sure that you explain in simple ways very quickly what is the problem that you're solving. Make sure they understand that it's a big problem, and that the market is big, and the opportunity is massive. Okay. The next slide is you talking about yourself, the founding team. Who are the founders? Most importantly, you're going through your background, and what you want to do the best that you can here is to tie the experience that you have had in your past with why you are uniquely positioned to be able to solve this problem, right? Investors want to feel secure that you are the expert in this area to solve this problem. So anything that could help alleviate that risk, that fear from the investor, is what you talk about. You talk about yourself, you talk about your co-founder, perhaps some key hires, some chief scientists that you have that will add the expertise, not just the technical experience, but perhaps the business experience, perhaps the business relationships, but any sort of relevant experience that position you to be uniquely qualified to solve this problem. If you have some strong advisors, perhaps add that in here to add credibility to the investor that this is the right team to go and solve this problem. Then, of course, is the solutions that you have to the problem. What is your proposed solution? Does your solution address the pain points that you mentioned earlier? Okay, and what are the benefits if the solution is applied? So the logic on this slide is mostly, here's the problem. The customer is going through this pain point, this pain point, this pain point. But with our solution, they will now have this benefit, this benefit, this benefit. Make that contrast very clear so that the investors see that your solution is complete and it's substantial. Then, after you talk about solution, you go specific into your product or service. What are the key features of the product or the service. You know, it can do this, it can do that. And you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. You can just do this. You can just do that. Really get specific into the features of what the product can do and how they solve the core problem. After you talk about the product, it's time to demo the product. Do the demo here. Lots of people go through the whole deck and then do the demo. You lose the context, you lose the point of the most effective, you know, point in your pitch. Do the demo here, okay? And the demo is you have to really think through the demo. You know, you have a very short amount of time, 4 or 5 minutes. The person across the table does not understand the space as well as you do. So you have to put yourself into their shoes. And so the demo has to be smooth, has to be easy to follow. The thing that will guarantee you that you will not get money is if you mess up here. So in a way, this demo is the most important part of the whole pitch. And every second of this demo is something you have to think very carefully and thoughtful about. I have seen hundreds of demos where the person is not ready. They're jumping around, changing, you know, overlapping windows and just all over the place. They are confused. The rest of us are confused. You don't want that, okay? And your demo cannot be every feature of your product, every button you will click on. This is not an overview of everything you have built in the last year. You're picking a specific workflow that demonstrates the value of the solution, you know, 1 or 2 workflows, and you're walking them through that workflow. And the ideal goal is to say how easy it is to use, and how simple it is to understand. Make sure that the parts where you know, you have a lot of visual dashboards to provide the insight so that users can say, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you can show this, you can show that. And finally, the end part of the workflow, you must have sort of this wow moment. That the investor has to be impressed. He has to be delighted that you're showing this end result. If you don't have that, the demo is not successful, okay? And by the way, you cannot do a pitch to an investor without a demo. Even on a pitch deck that you are giving someone, this is the year 2026, it cannot be 2 screenshots of your product. If you're handing someone a written demo, a written presentation, it still should have a link to a video that shows your demo. Okay, in 2026, it should be simple enough for you to prototype something and prove something working. And so yes, this is the most important slide. This is the most important part of your pitch, and you have to do it well. The next slide is the one slide on technology and architecture. Okay, what does your system architecture look like from end to end so that they have a sense for, okay, these are all the data that needs to come in, and this is the result that will come out. And in between, you're using these technologies, these components, these APIs. Talk about any machine learning models that you have, any patents that you have, you mention it here so that they understand, you know, that you have some unique moat. There's a very important question I get all the time from entrepreneurs and especially technologists. How much do I reveal here? I don't want to tell I don't want to show these investors my secret that he's going to steal it and he's going to go build and copy it and go and compete with me and so on. And that's a really valid concern. I totally get it. I have two answers to that. Number one is that on this slide, you mostly talk about what it can do, not how you do it. Okay. You're explaining high-level approaches to how you attack something, how you solve something. Okay. The investors most likely can't understand the deep technical details anyways, but focus on what you can do, not how you do it. Having said that, I will also say the second thing. Sometimes entrepreneurs are so obsessed with what they have as being so secretive, they barely talk about it. You are going to need to balance between the need that you have to go out there and pitch your deck and get funding with how much you want to share. You will learn over time that there is that line that you will be comfortable with talking about and not talking about. The one thing I will say though is that nowadays implementation is cheap. Execution is everything. And so in general, I have the perspective that I'm not too afraid to kind of talk about my technology. The devil's in the details, in the execution, and I trust that I can out-execute anyone. Anyways, what is the takeaway from this slide? The takeaway is that this team has built what they claim, and we can deep dive in the appendix. Next slide. After you talked about your product, after you give a little brief understanding of the technology, you now need to do competitive analysis. Who are your main competitors and how do they differ from you? How does your solution stand out in terms of features or AI capabilities or market focus or user experience? What is your IP? What is your competitive edge? Is it that you have data that no one else has? Is it that you're cheaper? Is it you have unique partnerships that no one has? Is it that your product has a network effect that other people can't replicate? Is it that you have incredible technology that no one has and expertise? Okay. And the takeaway here, of course, is that you can build a huge moat that others can't replicate. Okay. That's the key focus that you want the investor to walk away with, is that what you have is unique. No one can replicate this. Okay. But this slide, I also want to warn you, this is a slide where also most of the time investors walk away from investing in you because you don't cover the competition that the investor think should be your competition. So beware of your blind spot here. And I see this all the time. Entrepreneurs will compare their solution to something that exists long ago and not to the most relevant competition. So if the investor thinks that you are sloppy and you're not comparing yourself to your true competition, they will lose confidence in you. The most obvious examples of this right now in the AI era is that there will be a number of startups. They will build some applications on top of an LLM, and then they will compare themselves to other people building those similar application on top of some LLM. And they don't compare themselves to the LLM itself that can just add some more features and actually compete with them, right? We all know right now that Anthropic is, has a whole bunch of applications on top of Claude. There's Claude Code, there's Claude Design, there's Claude, I can't think of, I kind of forgot a couple, but they're getting into all kinds of spaces into the application. And so when you do comparison, you have to really think through what the investor might be thinking about. And this is the slide where you're cheating yourself. And you're trying to prove to the investor, I'm better than these people. You need to really make sure, because this slide is a slide for your own risk. You need to make sure that no one can outcompete you, no one can beat you. And so you have to really be broad in thinking about who might be in this space that you have to guard against. And if you don't cover those people and the investors believe that you missed that, they will walk away from you. The next slide is now that we're done with the product, the next part now shifts to the business side of your startup. What is your business model? Are you a B2B? Are you a B2C? Will you have subscriptions? Will you have licensing? Do you have a freemium model? So on, okay? So think through that, have logic for why you're a B2B play versus a B2C play. What is your pricing? Is it a subscription? Is it a per item thing? And of course, the biggest part of this slide is, do you currently have any business traction? How many users do you have? If you're a B2C, how many users are already using your app or your product? What's been the user growth week by week over the last couple months? If you're an enterprise product, how many customers do you have? What is the average price per deal? How long is the sales cycle to land these deals? How many, what's your customer growth over the last couple months? All those tractions are incredibly important. And as I've talked about in the very beginning of the whole presentation, the more you have of this, the less they care about something, about the rest of it. So if you actually have very strong business traction, you showcase that right at the solution side, right up front. When you talk about, here's my solution, and by the way, I already have this level of business traction. If you have that and you state it up front, I guarantee you they will be focused, very carefully on the rest of your conversation, because all of a sudden their greed is at the maximum and they are now paying attention. Okay, so if you have business traction, showcase it right up front, and then you add more details here. Okay. Again, the next slide is your execution plan and your roadmap. Back to this, the logic, the risk stack. If you're a first-time entrepreneur and you don't have a lot of business traction, then the investor is going to pay a lot of attention to your product, to your demo, and your plan for how you're going to execute, because that's all they will have to make a decision on investment. And so this slide, if you don't have the business traction, showing them that you understand how to execute and plan and have a roadmap for where you're going is so important. So here you say, what are your short-term and long-term deliverables? What will you deliver in the next 0 to 6 months? And what will you have in 6 to 18 months? Map that to when you're trying to do product validation, when you're trying to get to product market fit, whether your strategy is to land here and then expand to more products. Map that out. You want to show a timeline, you want to show product deliverables, and you want to show business metrics that you will achieve by those certain milestones. Okay, what's the takeaway here? The takeaway here is actually also really important. Your original vision tells the investor that you will conquer the world. You have this massive opportunity and you're going to win it all. But this is the part where you also need to show them that, but first, you are going to be focused. You are going to prioritize. You're going to first take over an island, be king of that island, and then you can expand. So this is the de-risk part. So your vision is grand, but you need to demonstrate to the investor that you can execute and be able to win those smaller steps before you get big. If your plan here is this ginormous plan that you're trying to solve everything, the investor will lose confidence. They will say, you know what? This person is inexperienced. He doesn't understand what it takes to run a startup. So you want to show a grand vision, but you want to show that in those beginning months and years, you are very prioritized, you're very focused, you're going to execute, you're going to win small and get bigger, and you have plans to do that. Very important. Next is your go-to-market plans. Who are your target customers? Where are they? How will you find them? How will you acquire your first 20 customers if you're an enterprise, or 1,000 users if you're a consumer product? What marketing, what outreach, what social medias will you use, and how will you use it? What partnerships will you form, and why will they work with you? All of that. What is the takeaway here? That you know how to reach your customers, you know how to build your partnerships, and you know how to expand on your business side from your product. Financial projections. Usually what this slide is a table of the next 1 year, 2 year, 3 year of your financials. What do you expect your revenue to be, your costs to be over the next 1 to 3 years? What are the key assumptions in your projections? Oh, you know, and those should also be on this table. Your user growth projection, your if you have one or more product lines, when does the second product come in? When does the third product come in? But how many employees will you have? What is the takeaway here? Of course, the financial here starts to showcase your vision that it's big, and your revenue will start to demonstrate the growth that it has over the next couple of years will demonstrate how big this market is. But the details in your financials will also show that you're very careful with money, that you think through how many headcount, what your costs are, when you will break even, when you will start to make money, and so on, right? Investors are looking for year-over-year growth to see that this business and the demand on it is really worth investing, because look at the growth that you will have once your product is out. And we're coming to the very last slide. And this is the slide where you say, how much are you raising from the investors, right? This round, you're looking for $500,000. This round, you're looking for $8 million, whatever the number is. But most importantly in this slide, how will you use that money, right? What milestones will you achieve with this money? How many new employees will you hire? What product will you build out? What thesis will you prove? And when will you do them? And finally, for anything else other than money, what areas do you need investor help or mentoring? And of course, This showcased your planning and execution chops, the last set of slides. And so that is the 11 slides and demo that makes up the template. It covers pretty much every major facet of your business plan, all boiled down to one topic per slide. And I think I'm done. I'll just rest here. If any of this stuff interests you and you'd like to, well, volunteer and help with us on Vietnam AI Star, here's the QR code again. And with that, I will hand it back over to the organizer.
Yeah, wow, such an insightful sharing of your story in the tech template, and Phu. Yeah, and most importantly, having a live demo is a key to showcasing like all the our competitive edge for all the judges and future investors. So, cảm ơn anh Phú for all this sharing. And now, before we move on to the next section, we have some minutes for a one or two questions from the workshop participants today. So I would like to pick the questions about the demo part. And there's a question from Hoàng Plu. Cho em hỏi về demo thì mình nên làm video demo hay là live demo ạ? Cho em hỏi về trade-off giữa hai bên và với các trường hợp nào thì mình nên live demo, trường hợp nào thì nên sẽ sử dụng video, và nếu có sự kết hợp thì nên chọn những tính năng nào cho video và những tính năng nào cho live ạ?
Okay. Of course, I will still speak in English to make sure everyone can understand. If you are doing a person-to-person pitch, you want to do a live demo. A live demo really demonstrates that you have things working underneath, and that adds more confidence to the investor. And you want to come in very confident. The beauty about the live demo is that even though you plan the demo to be very smooth, you're walking through one simple workflow, you want to delight them at the very end. The live demo allows them to ask questions. Well, what about this? What about that? And there's nothing more exciting and convincing than you being able to address that question in your demo live. And so you're going through your demo, but you're able to adopt your demo to the questions of the investor. Any follow-up questions, you can demonstrate, you can demo that, and that can be very convincing. So, the ideal case then is to do live demo because you trust and you have confidence in what you have built. When you hand out a deck for someone to read, afterwards, in there you want to include a link to a video of the demo. So that would be the best way to do that.
Cảm ơn anh Phú. A little bit recap in Vietnamese. Bạn Hoàng Lưu, là câu trả lời của anh Phú là khi mà mình có thể sử dụng live demo là mình tạo được thêm niềm tin cũng như là tăng sự thuyết phục đối với dù là ban giám khảo của hackathon lần này hoặc là các nhà đầu tư tương lai. Nhưng mà khi mà mình muốn gửi một cái slide deck cho bất kỳ ai thì mình có thể đính kèm cái phần video trong đó là được ạ.
That's right. When you're sending a written slide, you include a video of a demo. Please
Okay.
do not include screenshots. We're no longer in the year 2000. We're in 2026.
Yeah, and a little note here is that whenever you include the video link, then make sure to share the access so that everyone can see the video.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we have one more questions for this before we move on to the next part, which is the question from Arthur Tran. Xin chào thầy ạ. Về phần founding and experience thì theo em hiểu sẽ dễ hơn nếu một đội ngũ founding team sẽ vững chắc về mặt kỹ thuật và có kinh nghiệm tương đối trong mảng đang gọi vốn. Vậy nếu áp dụng cho những trường hợp founding team còn non trẻ, ít kinh nghiệm thì phần này nên trình bày như thế nào ạ?
It's tough, right? Because you have to find a way to convince the investors that you are the right team to do this. Another portion, if you really are lacking in the experience, I go back to the same thing I said in the beginning. This pitch deck is not for the investor, it's for yourself. And so if you're finding that you look around and neither you nor your founder have the right expertise to solve this problem, it should be a big warning sign to you that you need to do something. You need to bring in a chief scientist, you need to bring in some other expertise to help you, or you might try to go solve a different problem. So that's the first thing I would say is really all these things that if you find that you have a really hard time on a particular topic, the first thing you have to do is to recognize that you need to solve this for yourself. So that's one. The second thing I would add in this founding team slide is especially if there is a story, a narrative around why you came to this problem. In other words, a typical beautiful narrative would be that you were working somewhere and you were constantly running into this problem. This problem was the thing that really annoyed you or really prevented you from doing the things that you want to do. And then you start to ask around and everybody had the same problem. And that was why you are passionate about going out to solve this problem. So there's two pieces to this. I have the expertise to solve this problem, and I have the passion to solve this problem because of some reason. So coming up with that narrative to tell them why you will never give up on solving this problem because it has been something that you've lived with is also a really important piece.
Yeah, cảm ơn anh Phú. And it's always a must for everyone to just put in their expertise for each of the problem that they have. But maybe we have one more time, one more questions to be answered for this part, which is kind of like a very important question, and Phú. This is the question from Din Khôi. Within only 5 minutes of pitching, how can my team convince the judges that, within the hackathon that our product can solve effectively the problems of an organization? Can you give us the advice about the part that we should put into our pitching? Thank you so much.
Well, this is the test, okay? It's not easy to put something in 20 minutes or a demo in 5 minutes. But number one, everyone does it. And so you better find a way. And it forces you to really understand what matters. If you're taking longer than that, chances are you're rambling. You're not getting to the point. You're repeating yourself. It will take practice, no doubt, but you have to boil it down to the pure essence of what is you may have 5 workflows. Pick the best one. Remember, if you do your job well, there will be more meetings to come. They will be interested and they will ask for more. You don't have to complete everything in this first meeting. You have to get a second meeting. That's your goal. You have to get them to go, my God, I got to get the rest of my partners to bring them back in to talk some more. So pick the most impactful workflows, the one that everyone is thinking about, solve that beautifully, have a wow moment at the end. That's your goal. Your goal, but by the way, if you do anything more than that, you are now becoming a net negative. People who are trying to show every button on their screen of their product are not going to get the investment. Okay, investors don't care about that, and when they see that you don't have the experience to know better, then you will lose their trust as well. So the fact that you are able to exactly show what you need to show, and only that, is an important skill that you need to demonstrate. Because why? This is not an exaggeration. When you are a founder of a startup, what is more important is knowing what to say no to versus yes. People tend, and by the way, I'm one of them, so I know, engineers tend to build so many things, okay, before they get any product validation or market validation. They just build and build and build because why? They love building. And they go into a cave and they believe that they are their customer and they like all these things. And I'm here to try to convince you, as someone who has done that same mistake, go talk to customers, go build the thing that they will pay money for, not the things that you like to build. If you just want to build for your own thing, do a nonprofit, do something else. But if you want to build a business and that gets validation from people paying money, then you got to talk to those people who are paying you money and ask them what is it they want and build only those. When you are successful, you will have more work than you can realize that they want, that they will pay for. Okay, but don't go into a cave believing that you know exactly what the product is. You got to talk to the customers. Sorry, I'm sure I went off track there, but
Yeah, thank you anh Phú. Probably a very insightful answer. Và chính ở chỗ này mà chúng ta cần phải luôn kiểm soát được cái thời gian mà chúng ta pitching dành cho dù là ban giám khảo hay là một nhà đầu tư tương lai. Và chính lời giải thích của anh Phú về khi mà chúng ta chỉ có 5 phút thôi thì mình sẽ cần có thêm một cái buổi gặp gỡ thứ hai nữa, thì lúc đó mọi người sẽ cần phải luôn luôn chỉnh chu được cái bài thuyết trình của mình, đưa ra được giải thích được vì sao giải pháp của bạn là độc nhất và tạo ảnh hưởng nhất để nhà đầu tư, ban giám khảo có thể quan tâm đến mỗi điều đó, và đó là điểm khác biệt giữa bạn với các đội chơi khác. Thì vậy thì để có thể liên kết được với cái câu trả lời này thì đâu sẽ là kẽ hở chúng ta cần phải tránh? Điểm nào chúng ta sẽ cần chú ý nhiều hơn khi thực tế mình sẽ đi sâu vào từng slide thuyết trình? Thì mọi người ơi, chúng ta sẽ đi tiếp phần tiếp theo cùng với diễn giả ngày hôm nay. Đó chính là phần mà mọi người khá mong chờ nhất ạ. Chúng ta sẽ đi qua một cái slide deck mà đã được gửi đến cho ban tổ chức, và diễn giả của chúng ta anh Phú đây sẽ đi qua từng slide và góp ý cũng như là đưa những lời khuyên chân thành nhất cho tới mọi người ạ. Xin mời anh Phú ạ.
okay, thank you for that. I was given this slide deck to show as an example of of a slide deck that I would perhaps give some feedback on. Okay, and as you can see here, the first slide, the title slide, actually has what I like. Again, this whoever built this deck clearly has not heard my presentation before. So anything that has gone well is all to their credit. It's not like they actually listen to me and do anything. This is all their own deck. But I like this first deck. It has the name of the company, it has the name of the product, and it has a tagline. So a very good first slide. Next slide. Okay. Of course, they follow what I would have done. They start out with the problem slide. What I love about this slide is that it has big readable fonts. Everybody can read this. I love it. Okay. My problem with this slide is that it's not clear to me that every investor will understand what is the problem here. Okay. It goes right into current limitation of salinity intrusion. It's not clear to me that most people know what salinity intrusion is and why is that a problem. You know, I personally had the following reaction. I think I know what that is, but I'm not sure. So I actually had to go look it up just to confirm. And it is what I thought it was, which is it's the movement of salt water into freshwater supplies or rivers. And of course, that could be detrimental for farmers, agricultures, and so on. And so I guess then that's the problem. But my recommendation here is that you can't assume that every investor will understand the specific problem that you're solving. You just gotta help them a little bit more. So I would recommend that on this slide, we first give some definition of salinity intrusion, why that is a problem, why that has terrible effects on farming and so on, right? Get to the point where it becomes obvious. Okay, plants can't deal with salt water, so people can. That's an obvious statement. So if you could just say here, salinity intrusion is the movement of salt water into freshwater supplies or rivers, and that can cause terrible, devastation to agriculture. And then you present still the rest of this, that will help. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. Because if you remember, if you lose them on this slide, if they don't understand what you're talking about, the rest of the slide they can't understand. Because you cannot explain a problem to a solution to a problem that they didn't understand. They won't, an investor has to give you money, he has to part with his money. He has to pick you over everyone else who is pitching to him. He has to give you the money. So he has to really trust that he understands deeply how big the problem is and how effective the solution is. That's the only way he's going to give you money. And so if you lose him in understanding what the problem is, you've lost him, right? So anyways, to the solution, assuming now you understand the problem, I actually really like this solution slide. It has 4 specific areas of effectiveness in terms of what it will deliver, right? It will deliver very local risk maps. And the maps will be color-coded to know, what level of salt is at this particular spot in the map. And that's very informative to a farmer, let's say. There's a dashboard that has all this data. There's personalized action and recommendation based on these risk scores. It makes sense to me. I'm a farmer. My focus is on farming. So I want to be told exactly what I need to do here, in the situation. I don't want to have to analyze and come up with my own solution. Just tell me what to do. And then finally, the 4th thing is automated Zello alerts with perfect. It will come to me wherever I am. It will tell me. So I think this was a very effective slide in defining the benefit of the solution. Next slide. Okay. I looked at this slide. Of course, with every mostly technology slide, you have to zoom out so you can kind of look at everything. And turns out, looks like every one of these diagram is some sort of an image capture that is really fuzzy. You can't read most of the words here. And so this goes to the thing I said before. If you cannot take care of producing a slide that is readable, you've lost the investor, right? So this may have the right content. The presentation has lost you the opportunity with the investor. And so it has to be readable. If they zoom in, it should get clearer. And this was hard to understand. Okay. Next slide. I'm a little confused why operation cost comes here on the slide. I get that, to them, this is sort of where the business piece comes in and they're trying to talk about what their costs are. But it seems like it's a little bit out of place. And there's, so I suspect here, we're talking about the cost being $145 per every 1,000 users. And this is the cost of doing of the technology beforehand. But I don't really feel you even need to talk about this in the deck. At least not at that level anyways, because later on when you do that financial projection, you'll put the cost in. And then if they want to deep dive and want to ask you more, you can kind of deep dive. But this slide doesn't, this may be a, one of those appendix slides that you answer a question, but not present. And of course, the next couple of slides, as you will see, is some screenshots of the demo. So if we may go to the, this is just the slide that says, okay, there's a login that I can log into. Let's go to the next slide. So you'll see here that it is a screenshot of if you look closely on the left there, that's actually a map of Ho Chi Minh City. And of course, those square things are that color-coded dots of showing where the salt was, the salt percentages are. So this is a good demonstration of the product, if you will. I have a few comments. Number one, of course, I don't want to have any screenshots. I want a demo here of you going through the product and showing how it works. And showing exactly this screen will be the right thing to show. So this is a good part of the demo. It's very effective in showcasing what you promise, which is that you can show a very local, hyper-local picture of your product. My only comment on this particular UI is that the map is very hard to see. So I would make the map a little more visible, but the color-coded region looks good, and the dashboard on the right side looks good. Next slide. So again, this is more demo slides of the stuff. All of it has to be in a video. Okay, I believe this is the last slide. And this is sort of saying, okay, so from here, these are some of the next set of things that we are planning on doing. Okay. My comment here, of course, is that it's it's too vague, too high level, and not really the back to my template, not back to the roadmap slide that we're talking about, because the roadmap slide needs to have a timeline, needs to have very specific milestones on the timeline, what those milestones represent, perhaps what business metrics that are there that you're expecting, and so on. So that, I think this is the totality of the deck. So now I have some comment for the whole deck in general. I hope this, again, I don't know who this is, and I hope this comment is meant to be constructive. But this is a good pitch for a paper. that you submit somewhere, not as a business. You can see from what I've talked about, for a pitch of a business, one really needs to, quantify the total addressable market, show a demo, discuss competitive landscape and uniqueness of your solution, discuss the business models, pricing, show business traction, show product roadmap, show go-to-market plans, discuss founders' experience, show financial projections, funding asks. I'm sort of repeating my template here, but I'm trying to say none of that was actually covered in this pitch deck. So this is not a serious pitch deck to an investor.
Cảm ơn anh Phú for a very insightful sharing and comments. A lot of comments for the pitch deck, and that would be one of the like the template for all the participants and also the hacker teams to just have a reference for. So we have quite a few comments for all of the section that you have been through. So maybe we can spare some few minutes for everyone to just chime in and share more questions. In the meantime, we have a few questions way before we started. There is a question from Hải, anh chị tên Hải ạ. Can you recommend some courses teaching the financial projection skills in a project or startup? Of a startup. Thank you.
Oh, that's a great question. Each of us as founders, I realize that this pitch deck that I present is not something that every one of us founders can just go and complete tomorrow. There are some very deep, perhaps technical skills that you need to have in order to produce the right result that can impress an investor. So this is a very good question. In fact, every one of those slides can require a certain level of expertise that you need to have. And again, all of this should be then a reminder to you that you need to have that expertise to build out that part of your business plan. And so the first step is the recognition that you need to have the background and the expertise to produce the answers for each of them. The second one is, where do you find it? Unfortunately, I don't have anything right at the top of my head to recommend to you that I would, I don't want to recommend a book that you have to go read. The right thing is really, a short YouTube video somewhere that really walks through a financial projection slide, what's in it, and how do you arrive at those numbers. I can probably try to go look for some and maybe send it to the organizing team for you to, for them to relay to you. But that would be where you would look for it. I would just, until then, I would just go to YouTube and just look up, pitch deck financial slide, what should be in it, and how do I get the information type of thing. But the general stuff will be a revenue model. And if you have different product lines, then, revenue models, sub revenue models for each of those product lines, costs, per year of your organization, number of employees, your profit margin each year, when you will break even. So maybe there's also a row that talks about your cash balance so that they can understand, in year one, you're going to lose money, and that's why you need funding. Year two, you might lose even more money because you're scaling and you're spending even more money to get customers. But by year three, you break even. Year four, you're making this much money. Year five, blah, blah, blah. And of course, if you're very successful, then that story gets even more short, right? Which is that you'll be break even in year two, and year three, you're already 3x what you made in year two. year 4, you're 5x what you made in year 3, that kind of thing, you know. So they want to see that kind of growth when you break even, that you're managing your costs and so on.
Thank you, Anfu. Yeah, and about the part of having all the data, all the numbers, real numbers to persuade the investors, there's a question very interesting from Miss Dang Hong. She sent in 2 questions. The first question is about real numbers and tractions. She asked if how can we collect during the scope of this competition. And then the second question would be a suggestion for the demo. What should be the brand for the demo video that you would recommend? This one might need a bit of explanation from Chi, so that we can know better what it means. But maybe you can start with the first one first, real numbers and tractions.
Yeah, I'm a little unclear what the question really is in terms of showing business traction. Clearly, you're building your product, you're running your business. You have to have clarity around what are the key KPIs, the key performance index that you're measuring in your business, and you're simply showing those numbers. So maybe I misunderstand the question, but you know, certainly let's take an example. If you're building a consumer product, you're trying to get a lot of users. You want to show how many users have visited. You want to show how many active users. You know, there's some metric around engagement. So there's the difference between users and active users. You want to show the growth week over week of those. You want to show any sort of user acquisition costs. You know, you want to, you know, so all of those are things that you would measure to see whether you're gaining traction, and investors would want to see those as well. On the enterprise side, you know, most likely this will involve, you know, large sales cycles. So, you know, who are your large customers? If you have big brands like Apple or AT&T or, you know, whoever else that are using you, you want to name those. If you have testimonials from these very key players, you want to show those testimonials to convince the investors. So yeah, you have to know your product. You have to know what you want to be measuring, and that's what you would be showcasing. The next question around what is in the demo. Again, think about, you know, you are providing a solution to some major problem. So pick a simple workflow that really demonstrates the problem and the solution, and you're walking through how your product solves that problem. And then in the end, there has to be this wow factor. Wow, my God, look, it produces this result, and it clearly shows that the problem was really solved very well. You know, if you in 5 minutes, believe it or not, I have seen people actually go through 3 workflows, you know, or 2 or 1, but you can even do 3 if you really practice and know exactly what you want to show. The first workflow may be more detailed, but the second one may rest on the first one, and you can go quicker, but you're just showing a different outcome, you know, for a slightly different version of the problem or whatever. So, you know, let's say your solution works for the healthcare space, and then for the e-commerce space, you can, you know, each demo can be for each, but each time you can be shorter. You're just showing the end result.
Thank you, Anfu. And we move on to we have two more questions, and
Mhm.
the first question is from anh Cường Ngô. Bên bản trình chiếu nên cung cấp đủ các thông tin, không cần nghe trình bày, hay chỉ nên là một phần của thuyết trình, đóng vai trò tóm tắt, gợi mở, dẫn dắt, phần còn lại sẽ nằm ở trong phần trình bày ạ?
So I believe I do agree with that strategy. Really, you want to have one slide for each of the major topic, and you leave the rest in the appendix for the investors to ask more questions, and they will. And there's nothing more reassuring to the investor than when they ask a question, you say, "Oh, let me answer that," and then you have all these slides already prepared to answer that question. It just shows that you are on top of your game, and you respect their time, and you have all the answers ready for them, but only when they need it.
Thank you. And we have one last question from anh Henry Trần. How would you explain the solution architecture, which is a very complex workflow, in
Yep.
one slide? Or would you separate it into 2 or 3 extra slides?
That's a great yes. For the answer to both is yes, but let me explain. Talking about technology and implementation is very detailed. I mean, if you're successful, subsequent meetings with that investor, they will bring in their tech team to talk and have an entire hour only on tech, in which case you're going to have to show them 20 slides. Okay. But in the very first slide, I would just prepare one slide in the main deck and 3 or 4 slides in the appendix for that first meeting. So what should be in the very first slide? I do think it's important to show the overall flow so that the investor understands what are all of the input data that are coming in to their system, and what are the major pieces and what's the output. So even in the example that I showed, it was a good slide from a standpoint of what they wanted to show. They had, all this data that they collect that is meant for training a machine model. So they have all the different sources of data going into a diagram. Then they have, a piece where they're doing all of the ETL cleaning of the data, transforming data, and aggregating data, whatever not. And then that goes into a training block diagram to train the data, and then what comes out as a model. So let's say that's one. And then the next one is inference. So then you say data coming in from the user, going through the model, comes out your answer. So you're just showing general data in, data out, and what are the major blocks in between, and then the rest of it. And then in that simple slide, you talk about some of the key technologies, some of the key open source tech stack that you might use, give them a flavor that you are using some of the most state-of-the-art technology pieces to solve these workflows.
Yes, thank you for all the sharing, and Fu. And hopefully, those are all the questions that you might have up until now. The participants feel free to drop us more questions, burning concerns about not just the pitching, the scaling part, but also the other parts within the competition in our community, so that we can help you out and try. And you can try your best for the hackathon next week. Yeah.
While we wait for some, I when it's appropriate, I love to have some closing words and advice for those who are thinking about, starting their companies.
Oh, sure, sure. Yes. Maybe I would love to recap a bit in Vietnamese, and then we'll definitely have more of your your wisdom throughout the whole session, and then maybe a bit of sharing like at the end so that we can close the day. Ok, các bạn thân mến, vậy là chúng ta đã cùng nhau đi đến phần cuối của buổi workshop ngày hôm nay rồi. Thì nhìn lại tất cả những chia sẻ, những câu hỏi, những câu trả lời của không phải chỉ diễn giả không mà còn đến từ những người chơi, những người tham dự của chúng ta ngày hôm nay, thì có lẽ là tất cả mọi người có thể đúc kết được một điều rằng một bài pitch xuất sắc không nhất thiết phải bắt đầu bằng một tầm nhìn quá là vĩ mô, mà quan trọng hơn cả là cách chúng ta chứng minh năng lực thực thi của mình. Cốt lõi của một bài pitch thành công có thể sẽ nằm ở 3 yếu tố chính. Chúng ta sẽ thứ nhất là bắt đầu từ một thị trường ngách nhỏ và có kế hoạch cụ thể để chứng minh năng lực chúng ta có thể thực thi nhanh. Thứ hai, chúng ta phải thuyết phục được dù là ban giám khảo cho cuộc thi hackathon này hay là nhà đầu tư tương lai, thì bằng sản phẩm của chúng ta thông qua bản demo trực quan tập trung vào những tính năng quan trọng và có sức ảnh hưởng lớn nhất, thì ban giám khảo và nhà đầu tư đều sẽ được bị thuyết phục. Và điều thứ ba cũng là điều quan trọng nhất, chứng minh được giá trị của đội ngũ đứng sau sản phẩm, có được lộ trình phát triển của sản phẩm cùng với các thông tin về mô hình kinh doanh cũng như là phương thức tạo doanh thu của công ty, của tất cả các bạn chơi ở đây. Điều này sẽ nhằm khẳng định được rằng sản phẩm của các bạn không chỉ giải quyết được nhu cầu bức thiết thực tế của thị trường, của chính ngách mà các bạn chọn, mà còn mang lại giá trị thương mại cao nữa. Thì rất là cảm ơn anh Phú đã có mặt trong buổi workshop và chia sẻ rất là nhiều thông tin gửi đến mọi người, cũng như là câu chuyện của anh về Việt Nam AI Star cũng như rất là nhiều cái startup khác nhau. Hy vọng rằng sau buổi workshop ngày hôm nay thì mọi người không chỉ bỏ túi cách xây dựng một pitch deck hoàn thiện hơn, mà có thêm niềm tin và có thêm phương pháp để biến ý tưởng mình thành một sản phẩm thực tế. Thì we would like to also express sincere gratitude to Mr. Phu Hoang for spending time with us today. And just a quick teaser, he will be hosting an exclusive online office hour session right on the Saturday of our competition next week. So definitely keep an eye out for that. We'll set more information in the community. Mọi người ơi, hãy cùng tham gia cùng với ban tổ chức vào buổi online office hour tuần sau, thì anh Phú cũng sẽ giúp mọi người giải quyết kỹ hơn những câu hỏi thực tế hơn với những cái track mọi người chọn khi mà mình đã biết được thông tin từ ban tổ chức ạ. Và trước khi chúng ta có thể kết thúc buổi ngày hôm nay thì ban tổ chức cũng xin giới thiệu một buổi nữa vào tối ngày mai. Chúng ta sẽ diễn ra một buổi có tên là Info Session để ban tổ chức có thể giúp tất cả các đội chơi đi lại hết tất cả những thông tin mà mình cần nắm trước ngày 17, và làm thế nào để chúng ta có thể tối ưu hóa tất cả những thời gian chúng ta có với nhau, và mong rằng mọi người sẽ luôn có được rất nhiều ý tưởng cũng như là kiến thức, kỹ năng để có thể đem đến những cái sản phẩm tuyệt vời và giành được những giải thưởng thật là hay ho ạ. Vậy thì trước khi chúng ta sẽ kết thúc, mời anh Phú có đôi lời gửi đến mọi người, và sau đó thì chúng ta sẽ cùng mở camera lên để chụp hình với nhau một tấm cho đẹp ạ.
Okay,
Anh Phú.
so I really just want to send a few words to those aspiring entrepreneurs and founders out there. Of course, today is about a pitch deck that is a template that is very effective. It's not meant to be something that you can get done in 1 hour. It is part of the journey of the entrepreneur. Like I say, it is a reflection of your business plan that you will always get better and better and develop expertise for in each of those segments. It's a reminder that you need to be knowledgeable about each of those things in order for your idea to become a product, to become a business, to become a phenomenon. You know, it is a journey. And as a fellow founder, I want to say, you know, there's of course there are lows and highs to starting a company, but there's nothing like being able to make that impact and having your work be used and appreciated by others. I've had the fortunate luck in my lifetime when I started out building some of the Yahoo products. I mean, I could spend hours talking about some of those experiences, but you know, a lot of those products ended up having hundreds of millions of users. And we always would include a link on each of those services to ask for feedback. And as engineers, we love reading them. We wanted to understand what people like and what people don't like, and we were obsessed with going back to improve on things that they think could be better. And they are never shy about telling us what they want us to do more. And so it was just a great experience building products that you can continue to have people love to use. I often remember how it was possible that Yahoo was paying me to do this work that I love so much. On the actual entrepreneurship, you know, I just want to send that note of encouragement. Follow your dreams. You know, it's a beautiful thing when people use your product and appreciate your work. If you get a financial windfall, that's kind of a nice thing on the side, but you learn so much about what it means to build something that people will pay for. And by the way, the price and the payment itself, we're not talking about the notion of making money here. We're talking about the notion that paying for something is really the customer's way of telling you they appreciate the value that you have put in, that you have helped them solve their problem. You know, it just happens that it goes through the notion of paying you something, but it's really a confirmation of the work that you put in. So I want to wish all of the entrepreneurs the best of luck. We at VAS, Vietnam AI Stars, we are here to help you on this journey, to help mentor you, to help you with your pitch deck. You know, and that's, you know, that's my new goal and dream, is to really help you realize your dreams.
Cảm ơn anh Phú rất nhiều ạ. Mọi người ơi, mọi người có thể mở camera lên, cùng thay đổi background, zoom với ban tổ chức để mình có thể cùng nhau chụp một tấm hình thật là đẹp cùng với anh Phú không ạ? Nhờ ban tổ chức có thể gửi lại link zoom background cho mọi người ạ. Hoặc là mọi người chỉ cần mở màn hình lên là được rồi, mở camera lên cùng cười với nhau một tấm nha. Mình đợi 1 phút. Đã có thêm một vài camera của mọi người rồi. Khoảng 10 giây nữa ạ. Mọi người ơi, mình cùng cười nhé. Nhờ ban tổ chức có thể chụp một tấm hình thật là đẹp. 1, 2, 3. Rồi, ban tổ chức xin cảm ơn mọi người rất nhiều ạ. Thank you, Anh Phu. Thank you for your time with us today. It was a very amazing session with all the learnings, all the sharing, and definitely a lot of questions asked. And we would love to have you more with us next week.
Best of luck, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Anh Phu.
Bye
Cảm ơn
bye.
mọi người ạ. Chúc mọi người ngủ ngon.
Thần Minh, Chỉ Huy Lâm, có vẻ chúng ta đến đúng
Bên ngoài
chỗ.
phong đô quỷ
An
thành,
Minh Nguyệt mặt đầy vẻ kinh hãi, cảnh vật